Hello, my name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Executive Talk. Those that are watching live and those that are listening later on our podcast, thank you so much for joining us in today's program. Today's program is titled Just Had a Newborn. I want to first of all congratulate everybody that just had a newborn. I know this is a joyous occasion, but we're going to talk about it from a financial perspective. What are you about to witness seeing that you have a newborn now? With me today to talk to us a little bit further about this conversation is Kerri Farren. She's with Summit Global Private Wealth. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Kerri to the stage. How you doing, Kerri?
I'm doing great today. The weather's getting a little cooler, so that's good. How are you doing?
Yeah, it is good. I'm doing well. I'm with you. I'm ready for the weather to go ahead and dwindle down, get more manageable. So yeah, a little worn out, but here we are. But I just want to make sure everybody knows Kerri just came from a birthday. Want to give her a shout out to say happy birthday to you, happy belated birthday. And so, did you enjoy yourself?
The big 55. Woo!
Yeah, there you go. So let's go ahead and fast forward our conversation to just had a newborn. Why is this such an important conversation for you to discuss with us?
I think this is a great topic to cover because people are really excited to have the new kids, babies, start the new life, but the money situation becomes something later that, now we're starting to figure out this does cost money. And they want to have the best for their family and their kids to grow up. So money's something that is really something they need to know about and learn about and be ready for.
Yeah. It's one of those things that having a baby, and I want to make sure the audience does know that we don't take this conversation wrong, meaning we're not going to say that, now you have a baby, now you have to think about money. It's want you to be excited about having the baby and, so on and so forth. But the reality is there's a new situation, right? So we just have to be honest about it and go at it for what it is. And speaking of newness, talk to us about this slide right here and what this means to you.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot of new on there.
That's
having
right.
a child just totally changes lives. I mean, for the most part, it's for the good of the children's lives, but there are total new things that come up, like new responsibilities are your personal things, the activities, things that you do are now on the back burner because the responsibilities are more taking care of the child, doing what's right for the child, which bring on the new expenses. It costs thousands and thousands. I know you have a slide we're going to look at later that says it's $300,000 for a child, but it is now up to $1 million if you add on all this other stuff. So if you want to show that chart on that part,
Sure.
we can do that. And that also brings up the new priorities and new need for protection. So the amount is $300,000, which shows on that slide or that video that you had.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring that up for the audience to watch or to see. And I'll go ahead and read it off to everybody. So what we have here, and I Googled this because everybody knows that's watched the program that I'm a curious guy. So I'm going to go ahead and get some data. So in this data, it reads, it costs an average of $303,418 to raise a child from birth to 18 in the United States. According to the latest data from the Comprehensive Lending Tree Child Cost Report, this breaks down an average of $16,857 per year, or about $1,405 per month, after accounting for tax exemptions and credits. So that's the figure that Kerri is referring to. Kerri, so that's data. Is that shocking news?
Yeah, it is shocking news, but the thing that when people look at it, that says, of course, like I said, the 300,000 something, but that's just the basics for a child. When you look at it, everything else, when you start school, when you're buying stuff on bigger vacations, marriage coming up, I mean, all these things that we'll talk about adds all these new expenses to take care of a child for 18 years. And that's around $1 million a child. So the new expenses, we need to start looking at that when they do their financial strategies for the next year, next 6 months, every quarter, which is recommended, to start looking at what their expenses are and how to take care of that. And it goes with your priorities also. Kind of like the responsibilities, you have to start looking on what's more important and what's going to cost most money that you really have to start thinking about. And then the new need for protection, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, is now I have a family, now I have children, I have all these other things like a home, cars, whatever it is. We really need to protect the family to be able to cover that if something happens. So it's all this stuff together. The money starts going up. The fun is there, but all of these new responsibilities are now in force. And it happened as soon as the baby's born. All of a sudden, things are different.
That's right. And here's what I would like to do, Kerri, is I want to go ahead and have everybody look at this word new. It keeps on popping up. It's interesting as adults, we look at everything and we think everything is, and it is new, but we seem to forget our stages of newness that we have in our personal lives. You went from a baby to, now you're 10 years old. Now you're finally a teenager. That's new. Those are new experiences year after year. Now you're thinking differently. There's different responsibilities, things that you have to worry about, things that you're concerned about that you never had to concern yourself with before. When you're 13, you're trying to figure out a way to get out of the house at 18, right? You're fast forwarding. You have a new thought process and a new direction and new goals and new desires that pop up. When you're 18, it's completely different. It's a brand new world from what you were thinking when you were 13. So it comes to this point where you wanted to get married. Man, you went out there and did it. It worked. You wanted a baby. Here you are. Right? So you're used to this newness, but at the same time, it always shocks you because you want it, but it shocks you. So it's one of those things that in this conversation, this is not a time to, and this is where I preference the conversation. We're excited about you having a newborn, but now it's time to get into that newness and actually look at it for what it is. And so, Kerri, we have this slide right here, the new parent financial reality. Break down some of these points that you have.
Yeah, so this is the new parent. So these all go back to that first slide with new. and childcare costs, like we spoke about, is the number one right there of what it's going to cost to start taking care of the new child with everything that they need. And so we can go on and on with that list, which I think we do on some other slides, but that's number one. The other one is the reduced household income. This can happen because one of the parents may be staying home with the kid, or the baby, I should say, for the first, I don't know how long they are anymore, months, years, whatever, but that time the household income might be going down because some of them is not working anymore. But that's just for a short amount of time, and then we talk more about the income later, but that could happen. Medical expenses can come up. I always use an example of I have a cousin that they just had children. It's been 6 years now, so she's already 6 years old, but she was born with heart problem, and she had to have 3 surgeries in the first couple years. So right there, it's not just basic medical expenses that you're going to have, just the basics of having a child, but some other things can be added on real quick that you're not ready for, which was unfortunate. Sure. Everything is looking good now. Then the lack of sleep. This is something that every couple hours, you're up taking care of the baby. So the sleep goes down, so you're tired a lot more, and that can come up with a lot of financial mistakes. Not even just regular basic mistakes, but more on financial, because things aren't clear. They're not thinking, and all you're worried about is trying to get some sleep. Then if we go a little bit farther again with the future education expenses, education is getting so expensive. They're around like $40,000 a year, depending on where you're going to. And so all of a sudden the view on saving money for that may change. And then you never know if your child is going to go to college or not, but you want to at least start looking into that. And then how much raising a child can cost over time. Like we looked at that other chart, it can cost up to $1 million just for the first 18 years. And I'm 55 and I will give you experience that I have. I'm 55 and my parent or my mom is still worrying about me, buying me stuff, even though I'm 55. And so the point of it is that the money continues to go even after 18. And why planning early creates flexibility? What this means is if we're planned early enough, then you have a future of flexibility, of being able to do different things like travel, changing jobs, buying homes, things like that, because you're scheduled for it already. You are knowing that there are going to be different things coming up, different plans. And so you need to really do a financial strategy often to make sure that you are flexible, you are able to do what you want to do with your children, and that it's not tight every single year. So those are big things that really kind of point out when you first have a child that, like, oh my God, look at all of these new expenses that we're going to have on here. So that's what we want to talk about, going through there and making sure that people understand that and how we can start working with you to make a financial strategy.
And look at this, folks. Look at this again. We went from the new. Let's keep on going with that word new. These are new costs, childcare costs that are associated, which creates new decisions. It's one of those things that when the two of you, it was just the two of you, you weren't thinking about childcare costs, were you? You weren't thinking about medical expenses, because you're an adult, you can potentially manage your own medical expenses and, not put yourself in situations. But we do know that with kids, and you were a kid before, they come with weird situations. Kerri and I was talking yesterday. I read a report on YouTube that the new medical issue, or the new thing that's happening to a lot of kids, is those e-bikes. They're finding an uptick, about 671% an uptick in as far as kids going to the hospital because of these incidents. That adds cost that you weren't expecting. So this reduced household income, well, let's think about it. Sometimes the decision that you have to make is, I'm going to go ahead and stay home. The man or the woman stays home with the kid. Well, that changes the dynamics of the income and what you're able to do. And so part of that newness is the new decisions that are needed to be made, and the new worry, the new stress that start to consume you. And so have you found that to be the situation, Kerri?
Yes, it's been very interesting watching. I have a whole bunch of different kind of clients, and some of them have just had a child. And what I'm seeing when I go into these appointments to see them, the mom is really interested in understanding what's going on and where they want to do the best they can. But sometimes the guy is on the side, the dad, and he's kind of like, well, I feel like I know what I'm doing. I'll be able to handle this. And so sometimes I see the conflict there right from the start, because they haven't talked about it. They haven't worked it out yet. So I can see that conflict. But then there's other times I go and both the parents are in there. They're right on. They're on the same goals. They have everything planned for the future. And if things change, they work with it together. So I see it totally both different ways, from one extreme to the other. But there's always help out there that's needed for these clients of mine. So that's what us and other financial advisors are here to do.
Yes, and I love the fact whenever you bring that example up, because that shows where you are, time and space. So if you think about trying to keep the family together, that's also something new. Gentlemen, as she was mentioning, because it's typically the guy who gets because it's typically the woman who wants to push the appointment, because that's her concern, is the money equals security. Would that be accurate?
Definitely. Once
Okay.
that money is a stress on the family, and the baby's here, and so yes, let's get that taken care of.
Yeah. So actually, we're looking at your wife's perspective on the household now. These are all lists of that wife's perspective. I'm not saying it's not the guy's perspective either, but he's thinking something different. He thinks everything is okay. but she is looking at this at a completely different realm. So part of this conversation, gentlemen, is to understand the new thought process, to understand, to find your woman. She's here. She's constantly concerned about these things. So this is actually a good wake-up call at what's new and the new realities of your woman. Remember, before you didn't have these kids or this newborn, it was just you and her, and the finances were just fine, and you were relaxed. You all had a nice little system going. But as soon as that baby came, that marriage just started over, folks. So just remember that, gentlemen. Remember that. It sounds like you want to say something, Kerri.
No, I'm just smiling with you. I understand.
All right. Well, let's talk about these 5 financial priorities for new parents.
And this is really a good thing to look at, because this is where the financial strategy and the financial reviews and all that are number one priority. One of the things right there, emergency fund, we talk to clients about that even without children, because if things happen, we want to make sure that they have the cash available to pay for those emergency things, instead of pulling out your credit cards, getting other loans, getting into debt, anything like that that can cause more stress on that. So an emergency fund right there, that cash aside a certain amount to be able to help with these things. Life insurance is another big one. I know that we've talked about this in other shows that we've had, but sometimes the life insurance is overlooked as just another cost. But life insurance, as soon as you have that child, costs can come in for the family. And if there is something unfortunate that happens, and one of them is left with a home to pay, a new child, all these kind of things, they need to be covered. The spouse
Yeah.
needs to be, either side, whichever one is, unfortunately, they're alone, and, facts are facts. But life insurance helps that, because it will help pay for a certain amount of things in time and take the stress off of the family to go through what they're going through. They don't need to worry about money also. So I just really keep enforcing that life insurance as soon as you have children, buying a home, all of that. This ties into the disability insurance, and that's really needed if something happens to one of the parents at work or something like that, that they have to take time off. They need to be able to have that extra income, because as soon as one income goes away, stress starts. So that
Yes.
really needs to be something, another kind of insurance to look at, which brings it all up to the estate planning. This sounds like you want to start something. It sounds like this is something you want to start later in life, but no, we need to start doing it right away, so that if something happens again, then the family is left knowing what they have, knowing what they can do, knowing the people they're talking to, and being able to help with that, so that all the money's together and everything's set. And then finally, the retirement planning. We talk about this a lot too. The parents want to be able to retire. They want to have the money and be able to have life after. And so during this process of having children, the costs of that are going so high that sometimes the parents are not able to invest their own money through work to be able to start saving for their retirement. So this is something you want to look at really early. How much do you need for you to retire and be comfortable and be able to do the things you want, along with paying for your children as they grow up? But, parents need to retire also, and you need to have that plan enforced, because I've seen people that have given a lot of their money to their children even after they're 18, and not just a little bit after 18, but for quite some time. And then I'm finding out that it's coming from their retirement plan, and they're going to have to retire late or get another job. And so that is something that's serious. Really need to look at that and find out what you need to do, and set those goals and do those reviews as often as you can to be able to fit all of these priorities that we have here.
Yeah. Early in this conversation, we talked about protection. And this is exactly what a financial planner such as Kerri is trying to stress when she's saying this is the time to get it. people like to push this off like it's just another cost or another sale that they're trying to have. But let me be clear again as to what this is. This is your protection part of your finances. Husbands, this is a financial bubble that your wife is stressed about. You start putting this bubble on your family, you can have your wife back. It sounds weird, but guess what? She's not thinking about that. She knows that this is taken care of. Her security is being taken care of. You can't wait. And this is one of those things also what parents tend to do when they have newborns is let themselves go and say it's all about the baby. It very much so is. However, you have to be in good health as well. Part of this is qualifying to make sure that you can get these things. So you can't just let yourself go. That's where, because what I found, Kerri, is that there's a conflict in trying to be yourself and also be a parent. Mm-hmm. And you realize there's not a lot of time in this world. You can't just go running around all the time. This is where you have to sink in and become a hermit for a while until you can get your system down to where I'm taken care of, the wife's taken care of, kids are taken care of. No, everything is taken care of before you go out and play. Mm-hmm. Just like your parents, and that's where that came from, is take care of your stuff first before you go out and play. Mm-hmm. And that's part of your health. So that way, again, you can be prepared to put this insurances in place. I'm certain that there's been a lot of circumstances when there's been an unexpected death where a person is died young, 40, 48 or something like that. Didn't plan for it. They look like they're in good health, but things happen. Mm-hmm. And when you try to put stuff off thinking that you're just going to surpass everything, it's just one of those things. So, Kerri, is there any validity to what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And as we're talking about this, I think about when you're on a flight and they're telling you if something happens, the first oxygen has to come down to the parent to take care of the kids. And that sometimes parents are like really concerned about their child. And they're like, well, why wouldn't I, try to help her first and get that going? And it's like, well, because if you're not well, if you're not ready to help, if you don't have the oxygen, then you may not be able to help. And so that comes with money, planning, everything. If you're not set, your child may not be either.
That's right.
So it's a really good way to look at that, because everybody agrees when they're on the plane, oh yeah, this could be good. But when it comes to now money and personal life, it works the same way.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about this point here. So saving for your child's future. I know, same thing with kind of retirement, but this is also another cost. So talk to us about how people approach this.
Mm-hmm. And this is one thing that they approach it not well. That's why I like to enforce this, because when the child comes, you want to be able to start getting ready for that child to be able, when that child's ready to go, then she's set also. And parents really want to help their children do better than the way they were brought up or what they did. And every generation keeps saying that, even though all of our generations have done really well, for most of us, they've done really well, but we always still want to continue to make them better. So education funding options right away, you want to think about that, because you want to be able to start saving for your child to go to college. And remember what I said earlier, that they cost around $40,000 a year anymore. Heck, I don't know, but I know they're very expensive. And there are also things that we like to bring up, like the 529 plan, things like that. However, a lot of kids and a lot of people are growing up now not wanting to go to college, because there are a lot of jobs available that are making more money now than what you would have to spend to go to college. So even a 529 plan might not work. So you really need to talk about different ways to get those options up. Starting early, right when they're born, you can start putting money aside for that. So start early, not when they're 15 and go, oh no, what are we going to do? We're not going to be able to let her go to that university because we can't afford it. So start early. And then small contributions growing over time, even $50 a month, $100 a month, starting at age 0, by the time they're 18 and they're in the right place to make money, then they can have enough for their child. So it's all starting early at 0. They can even start life insurance for their children at 0 so that it's cheaper and they have it. So everything, you want to look back at the future, but don't wait until 10, 15, because then it could be too late. So always start early.
Kerri, I have a question for you. Do you find that, because a lot of parents will say, I mean, even just listen to this, man, Maurice, man, Kerri, you're asking me to stretch my dollar out all these different places. But all at the same time, I still want to spoil my child. I want to gift them with a whole bunch of stuff as they're growing up. I want them to have better experiences than I had growing up. I mean, there's a common theme. I want to go ahead and have some fun still. Right. So that dollar, as you know, is stretched in 20 different places. And so how do you tell somebody to reallocate their money towards this as well?
Yeah, so this is what we spoke about a lot yesterday, is looking at what's important at the time. The future is very important, and we want to help very much with the kids being able to get to where they want to be prepared, and be able to be successful in the future. So you want to be able to save money for that, for them to get that experience. But also, as they're growing up, you want to buy everything for your kids. They're just so cute and so spoiled, and you want to buy all these toys and do all this stuff for them. So you have the opportunity to do that, but sometimes people go a little overboard with it, and they want to spend a lot more money than what they really have. Now, we also talked about, when we look into the future, we're looking back now. What do we still have? Or even at 18, what did I have when I left the house? Was it everything that my parents had bought me? No, because they didn't last long. We got over the toys that we had because we grew up. So it's, again, you want to be able to really have your child grow up well, but let's think a little bit about the future too. So when I do financial strategies, we kind of put these into different buckets. It's like, okay, we want to be able to do this for our child, but we want to have this in the future. So that's how we can reallocate money to be able to have the things that they want for the most part, but also be able to save for the future. And so they can kind of have both. But a lot of people want to spoil their kids right away. And like, I had a cousin, they had a kid, and their whole basement was full of toys that they stopped using after a year. Even that, in fact, I shouldn't even say a year. They stopped using it maybe after a month, because there were new toys coming in. And so it's such, your money's going somewhere that's not really helping for the future. And so that's one thing to look at, is do some different buckets in being able to divide these things in, so that you can have your child grow up well, but also have her prepared, and also have you prepared as an adult. Be prepared for when she exits out and goes to college and starts her new life. So, it's just different buckets. It's the same amount of money that we all have, but we just put it in different buckets.
That is very profound. I want you all to really grab on to that. It's there's nothing worse than sitting down watching TV. Why do I say that? Do I watch TV? Absolutely. But there's these things called commercials. They have a way of jogging on your moment, and your moment that you're trying to have with the family. You may have a nice car, it's all paid off, but sure enough, that new car comes up and says, you need a better one. That new toy shows up on the screen, and while your kid's sitting there, and guess what? I want that, Dad. I want that, Mom. Well, guess what? It grabs that attention, keeps on grabbing at your money. Just when you have it, everything settled, something new comes out, and so there's a pattern of that. And you want the feeling of sometimes getting something new, but how much is new? And Kerri had made a great point. When you look back at what you have from your childhood, you don't have anything. You maybe have some memorabilia, you have some photos, maybe have some of your first pair of tennis shoes, but you can't fit them. Right? I mean, they're fine for them, but it's just, that's just what it was. Those toys are at ARC somewhere. Yeah, you repurpose them, but again, it's just one of those things of where that money is going. When that child is 18, and you all know as an 18-year-old, uh, it's tough getting out here into this world, right? And so when you're in, it's a level of preparation that I can guarantee you at 18, you'd rather have some of that money sitting there waiting for you, so that way you can maneuver correctly and get integrated into life, because getting integrated into life is pretty doggone difficult. So, I think that's fair to say. Would you feel like that's everybody, or it seems to be everybody's pattern, Kerri?
It does. And as you were talking about that, the commercials, these were in the 80s. I've been thinking a lot about the 80s lately because I'm an 80s girl. So are you. And I've been seeing things talking about all these things that families sit together and watch TV and the commercials come on. But now we didn't experience that. But now things are out on the internet. Things are on their,
Yeah.
Facebook, their phone, everything. And so they want a lot more right away. And they seem to get a lot more right away. We watched the commercials and used the little JCPenney book back then about the toys we wanted.
We had to circle that page.
Yep. But we were
That's right.
still there looking in those commercials and that magazine. It did it. But today it's just a lot faster. Kids want things a lot quicker. And with it moving so fast, the parents are buying things a lot quicker.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's easier to purchase now, being that everything, I'll be the first one to admit I'm an Amazonian, if that's even the word. But it's easier just to go click and buy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So
back then we had to save our pennies in our little piggy bank.
You had to go to the store. You had to go to Kmart or Target to go get it.
Yep. So yeah, it's changed a lot. So some of these things we might say might be coming from, when we were younger. I don't know, but I do see the similarity every generation though with all this.
Yeah. And so it's all well and good. But we're talking about, because I think as a financial planner, you find a lot of people say we don't have the cash for what you're talking about, Kerri. We want to, but we just can't because of this. Mm-hmm. Well, look at where this parts are coming from, and that's what we're bringing up in this moment. Is this is probably some of the issue that's causing this not to be available. Mm-hmm. So just really consider that. So let's look at some of these common mistakes.
So this is another good thing to look at. It comes back to where the very beginning was with new. Mm-hmm. Now we have also new mistakes that can be on there.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that is I'm really enforcing that, like I said before, putting off that life insurance. We really need that for the family. And it's not just for when the parent dies, but it's also for the children later also. And, it's affecting the whole family along with the children. They don't realize it at the time, but it's also affecting them. So that really needs to be, in there. Ignoring estate planning when something happens, you should have your power of attorney, your power of finance, all that stuff that's in there, because if something happens and the children are not taken care of, then at least it's there. The estate planning is there for everything to be taken care of. The stopping retirement savings. I don't know exactly why a lot of older people work at Walmart, but I do think to a point that they don't have the retirement money. And again, I don't know what that's from, what's caused it. I don't know any of that. I just know that after the parents, the children are gone, parents don't want to work for the rest of their life. So they want to have their retirement savings going on continuously while they're working and going, and not just counting on just their children all the time. They have to think about themselves first too. Yeah. Trying to do everything at once. All of that stuff can cause stress, can cause money. And one thing, the biggest divorce is over money. Money comes when children come. So it all goes around, and you want, again, the best for your child. Not communicating your financial goals with your partner, like I said before. Some of the parents, one side may be thinking something than the other. Before this happens, work it out. Work on all these plans. Make this clear so that when some things happen, your financial goals are set, everything is good, and you don't have that non-communication thing that starts fights, blah, 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 goes into the negative that I don't like talking about. So then you know the rest. Lifestyle inflation after a salary increase. This was one thing I was thinking about too, is when you're at, I'm going to give an example of, you're bringing in 50,000 a year, whatever. Your expenses are really close to that. Maybe you're spending 48,000, 50,000. So you're tight here. But then it comes to inflation and salary increase. The inflation's going up. But even though your salary's going up, so are your expenses because of inflation. So you're in the same percentage of debt to income as you were bringing in 50,000 as you are today bringing in 100,000. It's that same amount. So people need to look at not only the extra money they're coming in, but the percentage of what your debt to income is. That's what counts more than the actual numbers, I believe, of the cash value. And that's what they need to look at. I've talked to two separate families that are kind of in the same amount of income on both sides, same amount of kids, kind of same thing. But one of them really is not having trouble with their money because they're knowing how to use it correctly. The other one, they're stressing out. They don't know what's going on with their money. But when I sat down and looked at them, you see a whole bunch of things they don't need to buy. So it's, again, a financial strategy. You have to work together with your spouse because you can always, I shouldn't say you can always work it out because there are some that you can't. But for the most part, if you really think about it, talk, look at it, look at different opportunities and options that you can use, you can get this to work. And so it's just, putting it all together, starting off early, it's just something that can, what am I looking for, that can not cause things in the future of conflicts. It's just kind of hard to come up with these words, but the earlier the better. Just put it that way.
That's fair. Kerri, when I think about everything that we've been talking about today, I think what I feel confident needs to be said is just had a newborn, a better version of yourself needs to come to the table. I want everybody to really take that without taking offense to that. When you were, as an adult, when you go to work and you work with somebody else next to you and they're not really caring, are you really excited about the version of themselves that's showing up at work? No, you're a little bit frustrated because you're bringing your best. You're putting thought into what you're doing. And that's the thing about us as adults, is we seem to think we made it. It's the worst thing you can ever do in life, is actually feel like you made it. Because when you have to strive, you have to always be better than what you were yesterday. So part of this is being a husband or being a wife now. It's now you say, I'm going to be a better version for myself, for you. When I'm putting off life insurance, I'm not being a better version of myself because I'm not protecting and thinking about everything that needs to happen. Trying to do everything at once. Well, now so this putting off, ignoring, and stopping, that causes the trying to do everything at once. I want you to really put all that together. Kerri is talking about jump on this now. This is the moment to show that better version of yourself and do that. Kerri, this is something that we have to talk about, make sure everybody really grabs the attention, is not communicating financial goals with your partner. This is one of those things, this is where a huge collision course of marriage comes into play. You don't know that person's past until you live with them. They can tell you how much when you date, how much they love you and how much of this, but you see how it turns out in their day-to-day, in your day-to-day experiences with them. Those things start to creep in as to how that person is raising the baby. And so you see the differences in how the child is being approached. Their same love, but different approach still causes frustration and stress within the household. So a better version of yourself is coming to put your past aside, put my past aside, and come to the perfect present. What would that look like? And, operating on that level, because your past doesn't have to dictate what you do in the future. You can pick some pieces out, but it doesn't need to influence everything. You got to make sure it's clean past. You got to make sure it's clean thought. And so just really grab onto this, because what we're also saying, folks, you want to enjoy your family. I mean, is that true?
I would assume. I don't want to put any
that's
words
exactly
in
right.
anybody's mouth, but I would say so.
That's the end goal, folks, is to be able to have a family because you wanted to enjoy the experience of being married. You want to enjoy the experience of being a father, being a mother. But these things keep on creeping up. It takes away that experience. It makes you want to jump up out of that experience. And we want to make sure that you continue down the path. And so, that's a lot of what we're getting at in this conversation. So I hope you're grabbing that. Kerri, is there any final thoughts that you would like to give the audience here today based on what we talked about?
Yeah, there are actually two things. There was something I was going to bring up on this a little while ago when it came to the money and the spouse. Was another couple that I worked with. The wife hadn't had a job for a while, so he was bringing in the money. Well, she ended up getting a better job, but the communication was gone because they all of a sudden started talking about finance, and she was looking at her husband. He was stressed out about money, that he was trying to save it secretly. And then that came up, and she's like, well, I don't need to worry about it because I started this new job. I'm making good money. I've learned how to invest in this and invest in this and, put money in for a child. And the husband was like, why didn't you tell me about all this? And it was like, okay, it's time for me to step aside. But that was totally the other way. She was totally comfortable in doing her thing, but he was sitting there going, oh my God. So the expressions I saw in their face, it was like, she's like, what's the big deal? And he was like, this is the big deal.
That's
so,
it.
The family ended up, getting more income and everything turned out well, but it was just the communication again. And there was, hope for a child in the future. So they've got to figure this out before the child comes. Communication.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the biggest one that I just remember. I was just laughing at that. But all in all, the last thing, and I think about, and I talk about this a lot because it helps me, but it has to do with a picture of with me being a child. It's right next to me as a child. And one of them is just me. The other one is my dad holding me. What I look at that is, okay, when I see that, am I in the position that my dad thought I'd be in today as he was looking at me as a child? What am I doing today that he might have thought where I'd be? And I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I think so. But when I look at that also on the other side, it's like when you have a child, when you look at that picture, do you want them to be like you? Do you want them to have the life that you had and be able to bring them up the way you were? So when you look down at your child when she was young, where is she now? Is she doing the job that she wanted? Is she having the life that she wanted? It's always good to go back and reflect, I believe, on things like that. And that's why I have that picture of me next to me that I look at. It's like, okay, is this where I should be, what my dad thought I was going to be? And when I get older, am I going to be around other people that I saw as young? Are they where they want to be? So it's just sometimes good to look at that. And I think it brings emotion and also care about your future and your children's future. And I just think that's a good idea. But that's what I wanted to leave that at, is life is very important. Life is precious, and you want to make it the best you possibly can. So that's where planning comes in. Even though it can be frustrating, the future can look a lot brighter. And that's what I think I'll close with.
Absolutely fair. And I appreciate you, as always, Kerri, taking the time to dive into these areas within people's finances and things that they have going on to make it a better place for them. A lot of people may have or may not have thought about these things, and instead of getting into the trap and before it's too late, before you get into that argument, have this conversation with people such as Kerri to help you through. And I want you to make sure that you get that message from her. So Kerri, thanks for being here. Last happy birthday to you.
Yay.
Happy birthday. Enjoy it. This is going to be your best year yet. And we look forward to our next conversation here next month.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And so I want to thank everybody else for taking the time out of your day to listen to what Kerri had to say. And remember, I know you just had a newborn, but this is the moment in time to keep that feeling of love in sight. And part of that is to make sure that you're making the right decisions first and foremost today. Keep a high level of communication between your spouse. This is not a time to retreat and be silent. This is a time to come together to show that example to that newborn, to as it grows into an adult child, what it's like to operate on a high level marriage. So I want to thank you all for taking your time out of your schedule. But Kerri and we actually have to get back to work. So we'll see you next time. Have a great day.